If you're still getting answered in English here in Portugal, even when you're doing your best to speak Portuguese, it's probably not what you're saying, but it's how you are saying it. And that's actually great news, because if you're struggling to remember all those grammar rules, then excellent pronunciation is going to be your secret weapon. When you sound more Portuguese, people are going to be way more likely to reply in Portuguese instead of switching to English, which I know drives you guys mad. So in today's video, I'm teaching you advanced pronunciation tricks that actually impress the locals, not the obvious stuff. I'm talking about the tough ones that I teach inside my Portuguese Pro program for beginners. It's how the beginners that I teach get complimented and mistaken for advanced speakers like all the time. Like just this week, my student Lily was in Coimbra and had her pronunciation complimented so many times that it really boosted her confidence. So let's dive in. So the first one we are going to talk about is the letter S. Now you may have heard the rule that when an S is between two vowels, it becomes a Z sound. What you may not know is that even applies when it's in separate words. So if a word ends in an S and the next word begins with a vowel, if we're speaking quickly, this is also going to turn into a Z. Let me give you an example. In one of the dialogues that we do in my program, we have the phrase every Tuesday, which when said slowly is todas as terças, because we know that when a word ends in an S, we make a sh sound. But because we're going to likely say these words quickly, close together, because it forms one entire phrase, that S at the end of todas is going to become todas. Listen again and see if you can spot it. Todas as terças. Todas as terças. It's a bit of a tongue twister, especially considering we have so many z, sh, and s sounds in there. Give that one a go, because if you can master this, you're going to sound so natural. Some more examples that use the same phenomena is mais alguma coisa, mais alguma coisa. But I also want you to look out for when this doesn't happen and when we do need to stick to either a s or a sh with our s's, okay? Because another phrase that we have in a different dialogue about being at the bar is os nossos vinhos. And that's so tricky for people to do, because that double S inside nossos, because we have so many other sh sounds, a sh will creep in there as well. So give this one a go as if it were a tongue twister and practice mastering how the S sounds different in all of these contexts. I do cover S in my free pronunciation guide. It has native speaker audio and several drills to get you saying this sound correctly. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, head to the description to grab it, because it really is going to help you master 7 of the most difficult sounds in Portuguese. Next up, we're staying on the same theme here with S and C. What happens when these come together in a word? Well, it's actually really tricky, but I'm going to give you a little cheat code. So an S followed by a C should sound like this. Sh, s, sh, s. So you can actually practice that sound isolated to get your mouth used to making this movement. Sh, s, sh, s. So that means that in words like this, nascer, we are going to have both of those sounds in there, the same as the word piscina. Now this is of course really difficult to do, so the little cheat code is just to collapse these sounds and just say the sh, because usually when people are speaking, this is what it's going to sound like anyway. So you can simply say nascer, piscina. It's cheating, but it works. The next one is really odd, okay? This is when a word is beginning with PS or PN. So you might think, well, it's okay, the P is just silent like we have in English psychology. Because of the PH, we don't hear that sound at all. But in Portuguese, you are actually going to pronounce the P, but it's going to be quite a soft P. So listen to how I do it. Psicologia. So you can see that I just sort of went there. It's very subtle, but that P is going to be there. Psicologia. The same would go for a word like pneumonia, pneumonia, or a very common word, pneu, which is a tire. Give these a try and let me know how you get on in the comments. Are you finding these easy, difficult? I would love to hear how you find it. So the next one is when words end in SE. Now, if you've watched my videos, I do have a whole playlist on pronunciation videos, by the way. You can check that out after this video. I'll link them in the description. And I do talk a lot about open and closed vowels and how important this is in Portuguese. So you'll know that when a word ends in an E, we want to close it down and just sound like an For example, the word pode. However, when it becomes SE at the end, it feels really difficult to pronounce this E at all. So when you see a word like this, it's actually really tricky to know how to do that ending. And it sounds like this. Analyse. Analyse. So remember that S is becoming a Z because it's in between two vowels there. And really, we're not exaggerating that final E at all. Another funny word that the Portuguese have that they use a lot is the word hipótese. Hipótese. And you can tell there that the ending really is so closed down, we're really not hearing it at all. So this word means chance. So if you say, não tenho hipótese, it means like, I've got no chance, there's no way. Look out for more of these words that end in SE and see if you can now pronounce them. The final one I'm going to cover today is the tap to R. And when I'm teaching my students in the pronunciation workshop, this is the sound that we leave until last because it really is usually the most difficult one for people to master. But it really is going to make a big difference to your Portuguese. So what happens with the tap to R? Our tongue is literally doing one tap on the roof of our mouth and it sounds like this. R. Now, this is actually just a trimmed down version of the full trill, which is where your tongue is doing loads and loads of taps on the roof of the mouth. If you can trill, you can do the tapped R. We just need to isolate it and make it one movement. So this is really important in Portuguese if we have a single R in the middle of the word, or most importantly, at the end of the word. Because most people will say, se faz favor, and they'll leave that word hanging at the end. We need to hear the R in Portuguese. And again, if you can do this, you're going to sound so much more like a local. So what I tell my students to do is to imagine there's actually an imaginary E on the end of that, because it's going to remind them to actually make that R sound. So it should sound like this. Se faz favor. Could you hear the tap at the end? Favor. Practice that one. I know it's really difficult, but this is what is going to set you apart as having really advanced pronunciation in Portuguese. And don't forget about that tapped R when it's in the middle of a word either. People will often say Portuguese because that's how we would say it in English, right? We say Portuguese. We don't tap that R, but we need to do it in Portuguese and say Português. If you can master these sounds, you are head and shoulders above all the other foreigners trying to speak better Portuguese. As I mentioned, I do have a ton of videos on pronunciation on this channel, so if you liked this lesson, you should definitely check out this playlist next. It's going to skyrocket your confidence when you speak. And if you want to go even further and work on your listening skills and grammar knowledge with me, then my free lesson for beginners is waiting for you in the description. I promise it's the best 60 minutes you will spend on your Portuguese, especially if you are just getting started and you don't even have to take my word for it. Here are some of the comments from real humans who got so much out of it, and I would love you to be next. I'll be back next week with more tips and tutorials to build your confidence and conversation skills in Portuguese, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Ciao for now.